Hello everybody, my name is Logan Titus of the Titus Films YouTube channel, and welcome to my Blender 3D tutorial. Today we will be going over how to create a Blender 3D flamethrower simulation effect inside of Blender. Today we'll be using quick effects, several of the different view modes, particles, and simulations, as well as materials. So now we are going to begin with a simple fire effect, and I'm just doing this just to show you, the basics of how to do everything and all that good stuff, so that whenever we get to the more advanced stuff, you already know what to do, and I can just fly through everything. And all right, so I'm going to go to the right. We're going to create quick effects, go to smoke, and then this automatically creates a smoke domain and gives your object the simulation properties. So we're going to move that down, and as you can see, there is an automatic smoke simulation contained within the domain cube. But, you can also change the smoke to fire. So let's change that. So now if we look at it, and there we have fire. Alright, and then we also have fire and smoke as well. Okay. So now that we have the fire and smoke, we now want to do the same thing with particles. And so how this works is you will want to increase the life to the entire scene so that it's continuously going. And then you will also want to give it no gravity as well, and you can also change other things such as the halo down there, but we won't do that right now. So now you can see there are particles, but the fire is not attached to them. So what you want to do is you want to change that to mesh to particles, and you want to add in your particle system, and now if you hit play again, it comes out like that. Okay, so now we want to create the model of the flamethrower, which will be really simple. So you create a cylinder, give it, of course, a texture, and then we're going to want to rotate this. And then I will scale it down. I just want it to be like a really thin cylinder, because that's usually what flamethrowers look like, at least the one that I'm going to make is. Alright, and then we will duplicate that, and then we will rotate that back so that, it's kind of what the flamethrower sits on, It's a little base. Alright, and that is your flamethrower. Okay, so now we need an emitter for our flamethrower, which we don't want to use the cylinder. We want to use a plane. Having trouble finding it here. There it is. Okay, So we'll move that out, scale this thing down, because we want it to be as big as the nozzle of the flamethrower. And so we'll rotate that and put that right in front of the nozzle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to parent this to the nozzle, which will rotate. And then, so whenever the nozzle rotates, the emitter will rotate with it, making it seem very realistic. So now we will add in particles. I'll give it the proper life. And we will now want to increase the velocity of the particles, and also make sure that they have gravity on. So yeah, we'll turn this up a good ways, and we'll test it out. Like once I get to the required ones, to see there, that's like really low, but it's still jetting out, so we just need to increase that. That's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. That's not bad. All right, so now we're going to add in another plane, and then this will be used as the surface for which the particles will come into contact with. And so, this allows us, to give the fire a realistic feel, because, the fire can't just, kind of go through floors and walls and stuff. So, the idea of this is to give the fire a more realistic feel. So we will increase the friction as well as all the other settings, so that when the particles shoot out, they impact onto the surface and they don't go through it. Now, of course, some of the particles will go through anyway. It's just in, the nature of the computer and stuff. So, don't worry about that. Alright, so now we have everything increased. We have everything set up, ready to go. Friction's all up, all that good stuff. So the particles should now, whenever I hit play, emit and impact onto the surface of the floor. So here, if we watch, a majority of them are being stopped. So oh, yeah, that's what I thought. The velocity was a little too high, so you couldn't see it impact. So yeah, now you can see some of the particles are in fact impacting onto the floor. So that'll give us our realistic look that we want. So now we can use quick effects and fire or smoke. And we should definitely extend that because, fire. So yeah, make sure this is on, and oh man. And I see now that we have a bit of an offset there with our base and our our emitter. So let's just move that. Okay. So now, everything should be ready to go. So if I hit play, now you can see that smoke is coming out of that plane, which we used as the emitter, but again, we need to now attach the particles to the simulation. So we'll change that to particles, do that, and now, as you can see, the smoke is now coming out of the particles instead of the plane. So then we can also turn down some of these settings here and also change it to fire, because it's a flamethrower, not a smoke emitter. Alright, so now you can see that it's hitting the floor, not going through it, as well as, spraying outwards like it should be. Then I also decrease that setting to make the flame smaller. Okay, so then here we have a bunch of other settings. I'm going to increase the density there to, affect the look of the fire. So now, as you can see, that is what the fire looks like. Except if you notice, there are these little white dots all in the fire, which we will have to fix here in a minute. But right now we just need to get the fire down. So now we are going to be going back to the particles and going down to wherever the point and to wherever the halo and the point are. Now pretty much how this works is because of those little white spots that you see inside the flame, you want to get rid of those, so you turn off halo and you say no, and then pretty much you go down to the display and you hit point, so then the particles will still appear, but there won't be any giant spots flying around. Okay, so now we want to animate the flamethrower part, which the emitter is attached to. So how you do this is you go down to your timeline, you click wherever you want to, to have a keyframe. You press I, a yellow line will come up over that, and then you can just do whatever afterwards. I'm going to rotate my object up and then down over the course of the 10-second video. You can do whatever you want. So now that is all ready to go, and we will now move on. So now it is time to make our fire look realistic. So what you want to do is you want to go to the smoke domain and you want to go to the physics panel. From here you will take the divisions and the resolution from 32, and I find that whenever the maximum resolution that you can usually do for any computer is 64, so I'm going to put this at 64 to make it look, give it a much more detail. Then you will also want to turn on smoke high resolution and turn up the divisions and strength of that, and also do that in accordance with how powerful your computer is. So with the lighting, there are two ways you can do this. The way I'm going to do it, because it doesn't seem to want to work on my computer, is I'm going to take a lamp, change the light to around an orangish color, orangish red, to match up with the fire, and then I'm going to have it flicker over the course of the scene to make it, seem like the fire is, dissipating and reigniting as it flies through the air. For the rest of you, though, a really neat way to do this is if you go into particles, you go down to wherever you changed the halo, and you go to object, and you pick the lamp in which you created with the orange light. And if you attach that object to the particles, then the particles themselves will emit that same light. Now, again, this does not like to work on my computer, so hopefully for you guys it works. But if it doesn't work, just do it my way. And yep, so here we go. Oh yeah, and it turns out that I lied about the particles. You want to keep that up to about 1,000, because if you're doing the particles emitting light, then you definitely want to have a lot more because of how low the light may be whenever it is emitted from the particles. But otherwise, you should be fine. Okay, now this right here is very important. Color. The color of the fire whenever it is put into default is good, but it's definitely not realistic. In real life, the colors are a lot more defined, and so like you definitely want to change that up. Like what I did here is I literally just put a very hard red and a very hard yellow into the flame, and kind of squish them together so that it would mix, but it would still be extremely defined. Yeah, just do that, and it'll give your fire a very realistic color. Because if you don't, then, well, it's going to look kind of dull and very animated. You don't want that. Okay, so here, whenever you export, for those of you who don't know, you may want to put your resolution onto the HD TV 720 or 1080p. This really gives your video an edge over just the standard present mode. And then also I use the AVI JPEG as my export file type. You can use whatever you want. I saw that there was an MP4 there as well. So yep, do whatever you like, but make sure you turn on the HD TV 1080 or 720 so that your animation is like really high res. Okay, so now you want to go into the compositing tab and hit Use Nodes. So here you can add in, now this is a little different. Like you can either use a blur node for this, or you can use a glare node. Personally, I like a glare node because it makes the fire sort of pop, and it gives it that flare that usually fire has. So here, go to add in the glare. Also, make sure to add in a viewer so that whenever you can hit backdrop, and then it'll appear there so that you can edit it on the fly. Go to fog glow with the glare and turn down the threshold in order to give it the glare that you want. Personally, I think 0.8 or just the starting threshold would be fine. And now we're gonna have it play. We will render the image. This may take a minute though. And so then pretty much after whenever that's done, you can view it, and that is pretty much what it's going to look like for the entire video. So you know, here that is a bit too much glare on the fire, but I think it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna change it later. But yeah, so this is pretty much it. That's all you have to do. You just follow all those steps, and then you can make realistic fire and a flamethrower along with it. So thank you for watching my video, and I hope you check out my other ones. This is Logan Titus signing off. Have a good one.